Welcome to the court of the Edijester. How are we, good people? What have we got for you now? Well, this is quite extraordinary. This is about mental health, children and young people's mental health. So it's very interesting. Before that, come and be a warrior teacher and subscribe. Hit the button and go on, do it. Subscribe, because it gets me subscribers up. I'd like to hit 10,000 if possible. Is that possible? Maybe. Right, okay, so this is from the Times. But it's very interesting because it's discussing what's happening to students who leave university. So here we go. Thousands go straight from university to long-term sickness. Isn't that interesting? Why are thousands going straight from university to long-term sickness? What on earth is going on if that's the case? It's the Times. May have it right, may have it wrong. Probably nuance there we need to understand a bit more. But from the perspective of the article, it says students are one of the biggest contributors to rising economic inactivity, with deteriorating mental health a key factor. Is it? Right, okay. Who told them that? Tens of thousands of students are going straight from university to long-term sickness after a steep rise in recent years driven by mental health problems. Really? Wonder why they think that is. Liz Kendall, the Work and Pension Secretary, said, "This spiralling inactivity is the greatest employment challenge for a generation, and that reversing it is central to Labour's plans to boost economic growth." I don't know about you, Liz, but it strikes me it was a lot of lefty teachers that made them that way in the first place, but that's just me. Power and oppression narratives, anybody? What do you think happens when people are asked to focus on bullshit like that? What do you think happens when they're asked to focus on nonsense of that nature? Do you? What? Hey? What do you think? It makes them ill over long term? Constantly looking for grievance and looking for nonsense and looking for rubbish. But Labour's going to solve it. Right. Okay, great. How are you going to solve it? Gulags? Just mad. There are now a record 2.8 million people off work due to long-term sickness. Up 700,000 since COVID-19, with the cost of sickness benefits due to reach 64 billion by the end of the Parliament, up 30 billion on before the pandemic. A report by the NHS Confederation and the Boston Consulting Group found that reversing even part of the impact would save taxpayers $19.5 billion a year by the end of the decade through lower benefit spending and higher tax receipts. The boost to the wider economy would be even bigger at $62.6 billion. Okay, so what's happening there then? What do we reckon's going on? Here's half the problem, I think. Half the problem is this. We have a law in this country which says that you cannot discriminate against somebody because they have a disability. That's the first thing. You cannot discriminate because somebody has a disability, right? That's really important. So really, really important law. People with disabilities fought for it hard and long. The definition of disability is very, very specific in certain regions, apart from mental health, where it's very fluffy. And that is half the problem. Is that we aren't allowing the diagnosis to be the driver of whether or not somebody is unwell mentally. And we've now got people who identify as disabled. Is that part of the problem? Who's more likely to identify as disabled? The younger generation, fed a bunch of identitarian bullshit, or the older ones? Who do you think? There's a nice thing to answer in the comments. Who do you think's more likely to? Something's going on. Something's definitely going on there. The report also highlights that Britain has become an international outlier, with sickness up by 27% since the pandemic, while it stayed the same or fallen in the rest of Europe. In Britain, 1 in every 15 people of working age is now off owing to long-term illness, a rate 69% higher than Germany and more than twice Italy's level. Analysis by BCG, that's that Boston group, of people's roots into long-term sickness found that students were now one of the highest contributors in 2021-2022. 63,392 people aged 16 to 24 went straight from being economically inactive because they were studying to being inactive through long-term sickness, up from 36,866 in 2019-20. Once people flowing the other way are subtracted, students pushed up inactivity numbers by 42,000 from 12,000 in 2019-2020. While the rate had fluctuated before the pandemic, the figures show a 24% rise since 2014 and an average annual net increase of 5.5%, 2014. Interesting. with rising numbers of students flowing into long sickness while these moving from sickness to study remain more constant. Now, okay, so what's that about? What's that about? I imagine it's about lots and lots of different things, and you'll tell me what they are in the comments. But how about this one? They haven't left home. Some of them are still at home. It's easy to be sick when you're at home, innit? With the folks, you know, living in the bedroom. That's not their fault. That's to a very great degree is our fault. There's no pathway for them to do it. It's too expensive. Some do, some don't. So maybe that's part of it. What about the identifying into a disability I mentioned earlier? Do we think that's part of it? How about the mental health sales drive that's currently going on and has been for the last 15 years? Everything about well-being and mental health is absolute garbage. Garbage. It's making people ill. And how about the fact that we haven't had a decent war since 1945? No, I'm kidding. Can you imagine? Right, okay, right, it's the drafts going. I can't go, I've got mental health. Yeah, get your kit, it's over there. Imagine. What possible reason could a society have for wanting to make its people mentally ill? That's a good question to ask yourself as well, one that you might want to answer in the comments. There's something terribly wrong when we throw around mental illness constantly and mental health and well-being constantly. The biggest problem we've got in this country has got nothing to do with mental health. The biggest problem we've got in this country is intellectual health. That's our biggest problem. People pay a fortune to go to the gym, but they spend very little on learning. Intellectual health, that's the biggest problem. Intellectual you. We need to worry more about that than we do about these blubbing students who aren't actually mentally ill, because there's a massive portion of them that aren't. There, I'll say it. I know more than a few and young people who would quite happily take on the mantle of victimhood given the chance. Where did that come from? Oh God, was that the mad leftist and liberal teachers in the schools? It might well be, mightn't it? Constantly looking for grievance and power and oppression and sending these people around the bend thinking the world they live in is not worth living in, that it's going to explode or it's going to implode or it's going to dry up and we're going to end up with Grunty Thunberg as some kind of environmental Hitler-esque character. Is that what it is? Do you think that's what might be making these people ill? I think it might be. Do you think it might be the amount of social media they're engaging with without understanding what it is that they're doing? That might be it too. I'm really interested to hear what you think, because this is going to be a topic, a hot one. How are they going to get them off it? How are they going to get them off it? That's the question. Are they going to wean them off their victim pills? You can't. It's hard. It has to be done, and it has to be done in a tough way. What are they going to do? Employ an army of people to do it? No. They want them weak. They want them non-resilient. Then they'll be more easily accepting of what's going on. That's my thinking. But again, that could be a conspiracy. Why don't you tell me in the comments what you think about this extremely interesting phenomenon? Da, 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 da. Phenomenon. Da, 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 da. And in the meantime, I'm going to go and have a bacon sandwich. I'll see you later, good peeps. Keep scrapping, keep fighting, go and be a warrior teacher. Bye-bye.